Tuache kuwakumbusha umuhimu wa Tanzania.
Lugha moja, kabila 120. Hii ni hoja, utu, utamaduni na kujiamini.
Hekima, busara, bahari ya chumvi inahitajika kulinda muungano. Sisi wamoja, wikipitu. Familia moja, wikipitu.
Sindi baba moja, mama mbali mbali. Hivyo ni damu moja, shetani kaa mbali. Bendera moja la rangi mbali mbali. Shetani kaa mbali. Shetani kaa mbali.
Asante Karume baba na Nyerere kwa amani.
Muungano tunajivunia wa barani kisiwani.
Tembea kifua mbele, amanikiwa kwenye kilele.
Tunatembea kifua mbele, amanikiwa kwenye kilele.
Amani na upendo ndo urithi tuloachiwa. Hata bibi babu walishatuambia kwamba sisi ni ndugu na tubidi kupendana, sikutengana, ni kosa kubaguana.
Nataka Tanzania ndo nchi yangu nawejua, sita fulani sijui ghasia, naona shida mnanzikuwa. Nchi moja toka nazaliwa, toka nazelewa, zinashangaza akili zako unapokusudia kuigawa.
Hakuna ikiharibika.
Muungano Tanzania
Sisi wote
pamoja
tukiwajibika.
Nadhuru kwenye kaburi la babu yendo analia, nyeusi takwa nyekundu, bendera ya Tanzania. Wasisi wakitoa machozi, umekufuru dunia. Oh my God, hivi mnafuata wasia walotuachia?
Muungano ulianza kwenye uumbaji wa Mungu. Ardhi mwenzake mchanga na miamba, mti na mti, msitu, mtu na mtu, familia, familia na familia, ukoo, ukoo na ukoo, jamii kubwa ya Tanzania. Tanzania wetu ni muungano wetu. Neno ningejua siku zote mwisho safari.
Aga. Mama we. Aga. Tanzania yetu. Mama we.
Tanzania wangu ni muungano wetu. Tofauti zetu zisibadili kitu.
Tanzania wangu ni muungano wetu. Na tofauti zetu zisibadilike tu.
Tulinde, tudumishe, tulinde Tanzania. Tulinde, tudumishe, tulinde Tanzania.
Walifanya kazi babu zetu zamani, wakaujenga msingi ulioishika amani.
Walijitoa kwa ajili ya sisi watoto wao, na sisi tulinde kwa ajili ya wajukuu zao.
Walifanya kazi babu zetu wa zamani, wakaujenga
So there is a deliberate effort intended to take infrastructure as a strategic, investment, but also to make sure that we invest in it because it becomes the lifeline of economic growth.
November 1999, at the Sheikh Amri Abeid Stadium in Arusha, the presidents of the Republic of Kenya, Uganda, and the United Republic of Tanzania signed the treaty for the establishment of the East African Community. And on 7th July 2000, the treaty came into force. The republics of Burundi, Rwanda, and South Sudan were later admitted as new members of the community, increasing the membership from the original 3 to 6 partner states. The bloc is home to an estimated population of 177 million and a combined annual GDP of $193 billion as at the year 2019. The founders of the East African Community envisioned a region that would grow to a prosperous, competitive, secure, stable, and politically united community. 20 years later, true to their dreams and aspirations, East African Community has made significant gains towards integration, widening and deepening cooperation among the partner states in various key spheres for their mutual benefit, thanks to the strong and dynamic leadership being provided by the Summit of the Heads of State. Today, East African Community is the fastest growing regional economic bloc in Africa, with an expansive market, a hardworking and youthful population, enormous resources, including productive land, a vibrant tourism sector, rapid industrialization, an emerging oil and gas sector, precious minerals, and an attractive environment for investment.
We engage based on 4 pillars of regional integration. The first pillar is customs union, the second one is a common market protocol, monetary union, and of course, political federation. But looking at the very specific issues in terms of why it is started to be one of the fastest growing. One is because of the resources that we have in the community in East Africa, natural resources, but also because of the fact that the economies of the East African community.
Over the years, East African Community has continued to improve facilitation of movement of persons as well as goods and services across the region. A total of 17 key priority infrastructure projects in the areas of transport, cross-border operations, energy, and ICT aimed at deepening integration have been identified out of an approved set of 286 projects by the various EAC Heads of State joint retreats on infrastructure development and financing over the years, the most recent one being held in 2018.
The total required investment to implement these projects was about $78 billion for the next 10 years and beyond.
I see this as a deliberate and strategic effort by the heads of states to make East Africa within East Africa, partnership within East Africa, very connected, interconnected, but also East Africa very much connected to the rest of the world. And the idea is that people should be able to move from wherever they are conveniently and reach their next destination with ease. You've seen in parts of other parts of the world where, for example, radio network is so convenient. You live in one country, you work in the other, and because of the convenience of the networks, the radio networks, you're able to move. So I would want to see a situation in the future where somebody should be able to work in Arusha, but you sleep in the evening in Dar es Salaam or in Nairobi, and you come in the morning to work. And that is possible if we continue committing ourselves towards connectivity.
In support of the EAC trade agenda, a key priority has been modernization and expansion of key East African coastal ports of Mombasa and Dar es Salaam, where 90% of international trade volumes are transacted. In return, the efforts of reclaiming acres of sea area to build new berths, container loading yards, and new terminals all together are playing a significant role in reducing the overall cost of doing business in the region and growth of cargo volumes.
By 2012, Dar es Salaam port could only manage to handle 13 million tons a year, and that is stored capacity by then. But within 1 decade, the modernization and expansion of Dar es Salaam port, for instance, has enabled it to go to the capacity of handling 30 million tons, which is over 130% increase within 1 decade, which is, I'm sure, one of the significant records across the globe. We didn't have a Ro-Ro terminal, which has just been recently completed. In the recent, we had managed to handle a vessel that contained 3,743 vehicles, the biggest in the record. We managed to handle it within 17 hours, which is an estimation of about 220 vehicles per hour, which was not the case before we had this Ro-Ro. In the past, we would handle such a vessel in 5 days or 3 days.
Over the last 5 years, the Mombasa port cargo volumes throughput performance has steadily grown with a compound annual rate of 5.7% from 27.36 million tons in 2016 to 34.12 million tons in 2020. Transit has grown from 7.749 million tons in 2016 to 10.171 million tons in 2020. Railway lines have been revamped and built all the way to the ports to ensure seamless freight transport. Transporters from the republics of Burundi, Rwanda, South Sudan, and Uganda don't have to travel to the coastal towns since they can now collect their cargo from preferred inland container depots. Embakasi and Naivasha for the Kenyan counterparts, and for those using Dar es Salaam Port, Isaka Inland Container Port, Tanzania, that is earmarked for expansion. So impressive are the returns from the previous port investments, such that new international shipping lines are warming to do business with the EAC ports. With the region's economy still growing, there is cooperation towards investing in newer facilities in the port's infrastructure. Tanzania is undertaking modernization improvements on the Mtwara and Tanga ports. The first 3 berths at the Lamu port in Kenya that lies within the Lapsset Transit Corridor have since been commissioned. There is renewed focus in expanding inland ports with East African Community inland waterways like the port of Bujumbura, Uvira port in Congo, and Mpulungu port in Zambia. At the same time, East African Community partner states have become more and more interconnected through regional rail and road infrastructure along the northern and central transport corridors, making it easier for business operators to transport goods across the borders. The community's East African Railways Master Plan is guiding the future development of the railway services in the region.
If we adopted the railway systems and revived it and also implemented the master plan, we would grow our economies to a level of 7.5 to 8% per annum. And this will change what we call the per capita income of most of the East African member communities and their people.
Along the Northern Corridor, Kenya's standard gauge railway, which is already operational, is proving to be a game changer in addressing the transport challenges on movement of people and freight to landlocked neighbors like Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda, and South Sudan.
For SGR, it's much faster. Also, I think it's much cheaper because traveling from here to Mombasa using a bus, it's about 1,800 bob, while using SGR, it's 1,000 bob. Now, saving 800, it's a lot.
I'm happy I'm going to celebrate my birthday at Mombasa, and I chose SGR as my means of transport because one, it's secure, it's safe, it's convenient. I'm looking forward to have a ride on it.
Average transport costs for a 20-foot container from Mombasa to Kampala has fallen by about 30% from $2.9 per kilometer in 2010 to $2.1 per kilometer in 2020. And Mombasa to Kigali has reduced by about 50% from $3.9 per kilometer in 2010 to $2 per kilometer in 2020. While this is a substantial milestone, there is need to bring these costs of trade down further by way of extending the SGR to the borders of Uganda, South Sudan, and subsequently to Rwanda.
From Mombasa to Juba, a 20-foot container, it used to cost $9,000. Currently, given the infrastructure that the government with the development partner have put in place, the same container is $4,000. So look at the cost now. And when you look at the time it used to take, it has reduced substantially. And you can see the growth in the business. Even the World Bank reports do appraise East Africa in terms of the investment in infrastructure, investment in the training of the people, of the officials, the business growth.
The ongoing construction of the government-funded Tanzania Standard Gauge Railway, which is part of the region's central corridor, will be linking the country to the neighboring states of Uganda and Rwanda, and through these two, to Burundi and DRC Congo as part of the East Africa Railway Master Plan. The objective is not only to revolutionize freight and passenger transport in the region, but also form a land bridge across the region with this 2,700-kilometer railway.
One of the obstacles when it comes to trading within East Africa is actually the logistic part of it. It's much more cheaper to get a container from China to Dar es Salaam than getting a container from here to Rwanda. That's really something, to make it much more easier for these countries to be able to do business within East Africa, but also improve the lives of people within East Africa. As a country, we have to develop a much more reliable, efficient transport. If you go to the retailer, 40% of what you pay as a final consumer is 40% is for the logistic cost. So if you're able to cut maybe 50% or 40% of logistic cost, you improve a lot in terms of the price to the final consumer.
With 80% of the project's groundworks like carpeting, ditch works, bridges already complete, just like Kenya's SGR, the new railway is intended to replace the old insufficient meter gauge railway and decrease rail transport costs by 40% and reduce time and freight for cargo destined to neighboring states. Each freight train traveling at a speed of 120 kilometers per hour is expected to transport up to 10,000 tons, equivalent to 500 trucks load at one trip. Upon completion, the Tanzanian SGR will be the longest rail network in Africa, domestically funded and harnessing 90% of local labor. Local communities are already benefiting from employment opportunities and transfer of skills from the lead contractor.
Tunapata transfer of knowledge kutoka kwa wageni waliokuja katika mradi huu na wanatuhamishia sisi na kutufundisha vitu tofauti. Na baadhi ya locals ambao ni unskilled pia wanapata nafasi ya kuweza kujifunza kazi nyingi ambazo zinaendelea katika mradi huu hapa. Kwanza ni mradi pekee ambao una treni ya umeme.
Uganda Railways Corporation has embarked on an ambitious railroad revamping exercise in an effort to fast-track development and spur trade. The corporation has also relaunched cargo services to the port of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania following more than a decade of dormancy. Besides the northern and central corridors, also under development is the multimodal coastal corridor and the Lamu Port and Lamu South Sudan Ethiopia Transport Corridor and the North and South Power Transmission Corridor, the Lake Tanganyika, Lake Victoria, Lake Kivu, and Kagera River, encompassing the inland waterways.
An intermodal strategy looks at how you can effectively utilize the different modes of transport. And in this case, in the EAC, we are looking at, for example, roads, railways, and inland waterways. So for a normal trader who would wish to ship his goods or produce, to the market at the most cost-effective way. So he has options on how to get those goods to the market by picking or selecting what could be the most effective mode of transport.
To further ease movements of persons and goods, enhance cross-border connectivity, improve trade and commercial activity on these corridors, and improve citizens' urban mobility, several kilometers of new roads have been built, with others being upgraded across the various partner states within the cities and across the borders.
Hapo nyuma tulikuwa na shida sana kwa barabara, lakini kwa sababu kuna barabara ilikuwa inatoka Voi mpaka Taveta ilikuwa mbaya sana. Na wakati iliwekwa lami, saa hii inakuwa tu ni 1 hour from Voi to Taveta. Alafu kama tungeweza barabara kutoka Tanzania side mpaka Rusumo border, kama inaweza kutengenezwa vile hii ya Voi imetengenezwa, kazi ingekuwa rahisi sana.
So wherever then we have congestions, it means that the services and goods cannot be transferred as efficiently as we like it to happen. So we have then people unnecessarily spending more time on the road than would be efficient for us to be competitive. So I would say it's the basic thing about the road network and basically transport and communication is to render our economy more competitive compared to any other region. And that is what we are endeavoring to do.
We've implemented, for example, the Arusha Namanga Athi River Road Project, which was the first multinational road project to be implemented in the region. We have had a number of other multinational road projects which are under implementation. You have the Malindi to Bagamoyo Coastal Corridor multinational road project, which is currently under construction following the partner states securing funding from the African Development Bank and the European Union. We also have the Central Corridor multinational road project, which links Tanzania and Burundi, coming from Nyakanazi, Kasulu, Manyovu, and all the way to Bujumbura. So these are broad networks which are currently being implemented to ease the transport or the movement of goods, services, and people across the region.
These are not only providing alternative transport routes and better access to seaports by landlocked countries, but also addressing the major cities' traffic snarl-ups challenges and spurring innovation in urban transport. Lessons from the positive socio-economic impact of Tanzania's Dar es Salaam bus rapid transit system, with Phase 1 now proceeding to Phase 2, first of kind in the region, has motivated other partner states like Kenya to implement a similar model. Several modern ICT innovations like high-speed weigh-in-motion technology
Are you looking for video live streaming services? You want your church services to be on air? You do not know where to market your goods and services? At Sound Candid Talk, we deliver the best live stream services for your events, product and service launches. Reach on us today. We help your event, trainings, shows, and so more to the world through internet broadcasting in UHD. We provide from one to several camera setups and integrate graphics to live in your live streams. For more information, contact us through +2547 18454585 or email at soundcandytalk@gmail.com. Sound Candy Talk, making sense of our politics, is seeing live for the mouth.
As a component of the EAC Infrastructure Development Program, the East African Community has built one-stop border posts across the borders of partner states to ease cross-border travel and trade. Nationals of EAC partner states do not need visa while traveling to other partner states. The 11 out of 15 completed and operational one-stop border posts, or SBPs, along the various border points amongst the partner states, together with harmonized road transport regulations, have all eased movement of people, goods, and services, thereby saving time, reducing transport costs, as envisaged in the East African Community Common Market Protocol.
So movement imekuwa rahisi tangu sikana ingie. Maofisa washughuliki tena na kwenda kufanya manual.
Kitambo tulikuwa tunatumia muda mrefu. Boda hizo siku kama 5. Leo hii kuikaa sana ni siku 3 kama umezidisha.
A day, we quantify that you are losing $100 a day. So multiply by how many days? So before the investment in infrastructure, some of the clearance at the border would take maximum of 7 days. Currently, we are talking about hours.
A time, traffic, and user satisfaction survey conducted in 2016 for the Holili border post recorded a border crossing time reduction of 90%, from 22 hours in 2011 to 2 hours in 2016 for trucks, and 89% for containerized cargo, from 27 hours in 2011 to 2 hours in 2016. Similar efficiency improvements have been observed in other OSBPs.
In 2009, that's about 12 years ago, the traffic at the border was about an average of 75 trucks a day. Many years later, this has grown about to 300 trucks a day. So that's about 3 times what it was 6 years ago.
Before, there was a multiple declarations in terms of the country where the goods are coming from, or maybe it is a crossing. And likewise, when it arrives at the border, it has also to undergo a fresh declaration. But now, with automations within the region, all our custom systems are interfaced. So this one, they are talking, they're exchanging data. This has also relatively reduced a significant time, a clearance time, as well as cost.
Border authorities also attest to the benefits, including meeting their revenue targets, less strenuous work conditions, and better clearance volumes. Integrating other infrastructure components within the transit corridors, including oil pipelines, air transport, telecommunication webs, and power generation and transmission lines, is providing an important appreciation of the integrated nature of the infrastructure sector in the region. The $300 million Rusumo hydropower project under construction at the Kagera River along the Rwanda-Tanzania border and approximately 2 kilometers downstream at a dry point where the two countries share a border with Burundi has an initial planned capacity installation of 80 megawatts upon completion.
Moreover, the hydropower plants will contribute to access to low-cost electricity compared to the current sources we have, which include thermal power. And those, of course, are short-term measures we use to ensure we have sustainable supply.
So the Rusumo is one of the East African power pool project. So we are going to pool that power into the local people around in Tanzania, the local people around in Rwanda, but also in Burundi. It gives us a very good lesson that we can implement such a project an integrated project which can also benefit the all participants, and in this case, the three countries.
The upcoming 1,445-kilometer long electrically heated ESC crude oil pipeline linking Hoima, Western Uganda, to the port of Tanga, Tanzania, will be the world's longest pipeline of its kind. Upon completion, it will transport 216,000 barrels of crude oil daily. Better infrastructure across the partner states means better access to markets by both small-scale and large-scale traders, and availability of goods and services at affordable rates across the board to the ESC citizens.
The only thing that makes a manufacturer survive today is ensuring that you're doing it at the most efficient levels possible. So if we have ease of movement across, and we have our ports being very efficient, no extraordinary costs that are being lumped onto the manufacturer, I mean, it means, better returns for the manufacturers. It also means we can pass the same benefits onto our consumers. That will mean that volumes will also go up. If volumes go up, it means we employ more people within the factories. It means we have to pick more produce from the farmers.
The success of Customs Union Protocol signed in March 2004 with objective of promoting the free movement of goods in East Africa builds on the same concept of integrated infrastructure and partner states' commitment to harmonizing regulations on non-trade tariff barriers. East African Community Partner States are also harmonizing mobile calling and data tariffs across the region under the EAC Roaming Framework, or EAC One Network area, as directed by the Summit of EAC Heads of State. The East African Community Priority Infrastructure projects provide an opportunity for development finance institutions and the private sector to participate and invest in sectors with strong government commitments for success, with balanced risks and returns. While majority of these projects have been financed internally and externally, public-private partnerships and more funding from development partners will be key components to further the development of new, sustainable and competitive transport and trade infrastructure projects in the region.
We just now progressed to about 60% level on a PPP project going across the city of Nairobi, which we call the Nairobi Expressway. And this will be a toll road, purely and totally financed from private funds, and the revenue accruing to the developer, again, through cost recovery measures in form of tolling. Beyond that, we have been piloting the annuity roads, where private sector members are able to bring on board their financing early, and so we accrue the benefits of good road use, and then we'll pay this money over 10 years.
There is a paradigm shift. The role of government is to create a conducive environment for business sector to drive growth. Now, what government does is to ensure that the institutions, the legal framework are in place for private sector to do business. Both infrastructure, both business, it should be led by the private sector.
Currently, we have established a framework, our technical working group between the East African community and the East African Business Council, which is the apex body of the private sector in East Africa. And this network is meant to identify some gaps and see how we need to strengthen the role of private sector in engagements. During the pandemic, we saw deliberate effort by private sector working closely with governments to mitigate COVID, to respond to COVID. And if that partnership was not there, it would have been very difficult. But with private sector, then it becomes very easy to develop our partner states.
We continue to cooperate with other partner states on also improving our roads, the railway systems, the waterways, air transport. All this really to ensure that we have smooth movement of people and goods.
It is because of these deliberate efforts by the heads of state who think through infrastructure, there will be accelerated efforts to develop our economies in East Africa. Therefore, in the next couple of years, 20 years, I see a very connected East Africa. I see a East Africa that is very easy to move, to operate in, and an East Africa that is very developed, possibly almost all of it moving to the middle income level because of the infrastructure development.
While a lot has been accomplished over the years, funding gaps are evident, and more still needs to be done in various spheres, and support from development partners and public-private partnerships will be key to build more infrastructure. In the years ahead, East African Community will continue to build on the progress made so far, guided by the EAC Vision 2050, where all citizens enjoy sustainable socio-economic growth, poverty reduction, international and intra-regional trade facilitation, and deepened regional integration. East African Community, one people, one destiny.
Victoria is the largest freshwater lake in Africa and the second largest in the world, with a surface area of 68,800 square kilometers. Located in East Africa, its riparian states are Kenya to the northeast, Uganda to the north and northwest, and Tanzania to the south, with associated catchments in Rwanda, Burundi to the southwest. Nowadays, the lake and its resources boost the economy of East African Community countries. For example, 90% of the hydroelectricity produced in Uganda comes from the lake and its basins. Large cities such as Kampala, Mwanza, and Kisumu feed on drinking water from the lake. Its fisheries support more than 3 million people and generate more than $500 million of revenue every year. Crossed by the equator, Lake Victoria is populated by a variety of fauna and tropical flora that's threatened by pollution. Rapid urbanization is placing an enormous burden on the secondary towns around Lake Victoria and its associated catchments in Burundi, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania. This is becoming a critical issue as all countries strive to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals for water and sanitation.
EAC has a vision of widening and deepening regional integration. We are the only regional economic community that takes the whole work of integration with the great dream of having a politically integrated East Africa. We are guided by successive development strategies, and the bigger aim of EAC is poverty reduction, where many programs are implemented to contribute to poverty alleviation. As you all know, poverty in Africa is manifested by poor access to health, lack of clean water and clean environment, shortage of food, poor education, and other social services.
The formation of the East African Community, Lake Victoria Basin Commission, LVBC, gives a unique opportunity for these 5 countries to cooperate and share experiences as positive steps are taken towards extending access to safe water supplies, improved sanitation, and hence improving the lake's ecosystem and the livelihoods of the communities.
Lake Victoria Basin is the land that traverses Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, with a total area of about 183 square kilometers, and the lake, of course, inside it having 68,000 square kilometers. Now, this is a very critical area for the East African community because during the first East African development strategy that was drawn in 1997 up to 2000, the 3 then partner states of Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania declared that region a regional economic growth zone for East Africa because of its significance. Now, if you looked at the lake, there is a saying in China which says that if you want to know the way the catchment area is managed, Just look at the water body mass. Now, if you look at the Lake Victoria Basin, which I said is 68,000 square kilometers, running through a catchment area of 186,000 square kilometers, with a population of 44 million people. Now, whatever happens in the lake is dependent on what people are doing in the catchment area. For example, I'll give you an example. If people in Burundi, for example, I'll just pick Burundi as an example, do not use their catchment properly, there are basically some few issues that will take place. One, there will be a lot of soil erosion. There will be a lot of fertilizers. There will be a lot of solid and liquid waste getting into the Kagera River. But they will not stay in Burundi. They will be transported. And their final destination will be where? Will be in Lake Victoria. So what I'm trying to say is that about 90% of the challenges that we are addressing in Lake Victoria are not from the lake itself, but these are problems that are taking place in the catchment area. Now, almost 50% of Burundi is in Lake Victoria. So whatever activities take place within the catchment area of Lake Victoria in Burundi affects the lake. Rwanda is almost 100% in the Lake Victoria Basin. So whatever happens in the catchment area of Burundi, may it be water hyacinths, may it be solid waste, all of them, they end up in Lake Victoria. Whatever happens in Uganda, in the catchment area, affects the lake. And so is what happens in Kenya and what happens in Tanzania. So as we try to improve the water quality and the quantity of water in Lake Victoria, we can't do it without going into the Lake Victoria Basin or the catchment area. And therefore Burundi falls there and Rwanda falls there. You don't need to be in contact with the lake to have an effect in the lake.
Lake Victoria Water Supply and Sanitation Phase 2 LV Watson 2 program of regional cooperation, partnership building, institutional and capacity enhancement, and a sense of joint ownership of the resources of the lake basin, all of which are central to the overarching goal of managing the lake basin as a regional public good. The initiative seeks to develop the right balance between investments on water and sanitation infrastructure in the secondary towns and capacity building at the local and regional level to sustain program benefits.
The Lake Victoria Water and Sanitation Project is a program which was implemented in 15 cities in East Africa with the aim of increasing access to clean water in the selected towns where water is provided to households and health facilities. So far, the impact has been very good. And it is demonstrated by improvement in health standards and reduction of waterborne diseases. There is a direct correlation between poverty, health, water, and clean environment. And clean water and environment leads to more vulnerability to diseases. Poor health means little time and energy to work, which leads to more poverty.
It uses a phased approach to implementation which focuses first on immediate interventions designed to deliver immediate results, followed by long-term interventions requiring larger investments. LV Watson 2 focuses on the following components: development of sustainable water supply systems, provision of hygiene and environmental sanitation facilities, including solid and liquid waste management systems, and capacity building to town councils and service providers.
Mwanzo hali ilikuwa ni mbaya sana mpaka tulikuwa tunanunua maji ili dumu la lita 20 tulikuwa tunanunua kwa shilingi 600 mpaka 700. Kwa hali hiyo sasa, watu ambao walikuwa hawana hata uwezo wa namna yote ile, kuna maji alikuwa mwisho wanachota mtoni, kwenye mto ule maji ni machafu sana. Lakini tangu mradi huu ulipoanza kuingia, kwanza tulikuwa tunafikiri ni uongo, lakini maji alipoanza kuingia kweli tulifurahi sana, na mpaka sasa hivi mimi siamini kwamba ni maji au niko ndotoni, kwa sababu tulikuwa tunaona ni kitu cha ajabu. Kwa kweli tunawashukuru sana wale watu ambao wanatuletea maji sasa hivi safi kabisa. Tangu asubuhi saa 11 wanamsha, wengine nishawapata namba za simu watu kwamba mje mchote maji. Saa 11 alfajiri wananiamsha, anakuja nakaa humu. Kwa hiyo tangu asubuhi watu wanachota maji mpaka na ovyo kidogo amepungua. Afya wananchi sasa, hata hali ile ya kuharisha, maana watu walikuwa wanatumia maji tu ovyo, lakini sasa hivi tangu maji yameingia, hata swala la uharishaji, kuharisha typhoid kunaletwa na maji haya ovyo, lakini kwa sasa hivi imepungua sana.
15 cities in the 5 EAC member states are beneficiaries. For instance, in Burundi we have Muyinga, Ngozi and Kayanza, while in Kenya we have Kericho, Keroka and Isebania Sirari. In Rwanda we have Nyagatare, Kayonza and Nyanza, while in Tanzania we have Geita, Sengerema and Nasio. And finally in Uganda we have Mabuye, Buama, Kayabwe, Bukakata, Lambu and Ntungamo. The cost of the project is $121 million. The African Development Bank, ADB, has supported the project at a cost of $108 million, and the 5 EAC member countries donate $13 million for their shares. UN Habitat contributes to capacity building.
This initiative or this program and others like it is very much a part of the bank's ongoing effort to promote regional integration. Within the context of the Integrate Africa strategy of the bank, we have been working both in the East Africa region and across the continent to help integrate Africans. We are a very strong partner of the East African community. We participate, collaborate in operations, in projects, in policy, programs, in all aspects. We work together to promote the integration of peoples, market, economies, politics, so that we create one seamless East Africa region. This is what our leaders want. This is what the people of East Africa want. And we are here with the East African community and the ADB to implement this vision.
LV Watson 2 is a regional project in which each country has its own management agency. In Tanzania, for instance, LV Watson 2 depends directly on the Ministry of Water under the coordination of WASA.
With the coming of this project, and after testing, we have discovered that everyone now in town would be getting enough water for various uses: drinking, cooking, washing, and all the necessities that are required.
This project actually shows the spirit of the East African community. For the first time in the history of Lake Victoria South Water Services Board, we've been able to actually implement a transboundary project. We are actually taking water from the Kenyan side to the Tanzanian side. And interesting, the first quick measures just focused on the Kenyan side, where we were able to do a project of 1,000 meter cubed of water per day. The additional is 3,000, and we will have surplus water, enough water to allow the water to cross to the Tanzanian side. And I think that is the spirit of the East African community working together and providing services to one another.
The situation is quite different. People have water in their homes, and they're getting water 24 hours and very safe water. On sanitation, of course, we had, in particular when it comes to the public toilets, there are no public toilets in most of the places. So we put up the public toilets in some institutions, also in public places like markets. So where people used to go to maybe bushes, or still go to a neighboring place, town, or neighboring